I am coming before you tonight with another book. The Life of Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was president from 1828 until 1836. During his term in the White House, Andrew Jackson, also known as Old Hickory, made it his mission to destroy an institution that was at the time called the Second Bank of the United States. The Second Bank of the United States can be considered the grandfather of the Federal Reserve System. The first Bank of the United States was set up by Alexander Hamilton. The Second Bank of the United States, which is the bank that Andrew Jackson destroyed, was set up to provide the credit needed to fund the War of 1812. When Andrew Jackson got to Washington and he learned of because see, Andrew Jackson was just a redneck from Tennessee. He didn't even want to be president. But he was the hero of the War of 1812, and he was sort of persuaded, using his fame, he was forced into it. But then he gets to Washington and he realizes that there's a bank in Philadelphia called the Second Bank of the United States. This bank controlled the entire U.S. economy. And it was privately owned. It was run by a guy named Nicholas Biddle, who was a child prodigy. Nicholas Biddle graduated from Harvard when he was like 15. I mean, he was an amazing guy. And Andrew Jackson saw in Nicholas Biddle an enemy. And it wasn't just an enemy of Andrew Jackson, it was an enemy of the people. Now, today's Nicholas Biddle is named Ben Bernanke, and his predecessor was Alan Greenspan, just so we know where we are. Andrew Jackson made it his mission to destroy this bank, and he succeeded. And in doing so, he became, listen carefully, wrap your mind around this, he became the single president in U.S. history that paid off the national debt. He's the only one who ever did it. George Washington didn't do it, Thomas Jefferson didn't do it, and no president since has ever done it. But Andrew Jackson paid off the national debt. He paid it off. When he left office, there was no debt. We need to look at Ron Paul as the Andrew Jackson of today. And we need to give him the mandate to shut down the Federal Reserve and pay off the national debt. Do you realize this debt is right now at $9 trillion? It's $9 trillion. If you look at the unfunded liabilities of Medicare and Social Security, we're looking at a total aggregate debt of something north of $50 trillion that we owe. But we don't owe it because we're going to be long dead before it's paid. No, our children owe it, and our grandchildren owe it, and their children owe it. We have to be responsible. Thomas Jefferson once said that it was a crime against humanity for one generation to saddle a future generation with their debts, and that every single generation should pay its own debts. Is there really any chance we have of doing that if we don't elect Ron Paul? No, there's not. There's no chance.